Now, the rest of the story.
Welcome back. As you guys can see, this is going to be kind of a different video. I brought my GoPro, but I didn't bring the camera mount for it, so I thought it was in here. After a little bit of thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it's in the 82. So what we're doing is, admittedly, yeah, we probably should have done this 2 weeks ago, but, you know, things happen. And this is the last that I got to actually cut. This is actually new seeding. It's got oats for a parent crop or a cover crop. And the real goal here is just to get the oats out. The alfalfa that's coming up underneath looks really nice, actually. And I attribute a lot of that just to the fact that we ramped up the amount of pounds per acre we're putting down. So this strip is about 10 acres. This is my dad's. This is on soybean stubble, or planted into soybean stubble from last year. This stuff looks pretty stinking cool for not having anything done to it since the day we planted it. We don't spray for weeds or anything. Never used to. I'm not saying we wouldn't benefit from it, but we have no interest in the oats, or even the straw, really, for that matter. And I don't really want to call this a salvage operation, but it kind of feels like that. I mean, a lot of it is we want to try to get some kind of use out of this. Ideally, we would have gotten it cut and baled and wrapped before the stuff headed out, and now essentially I'm just making straw with a bunch of green in it. The alfalfa's tall enough that's mixing in with it. I don't know. It's a big question mark what we're really going to have once I'm all said and done. I mean, we're going to try to leave it lay. They're calling for rain Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today is Tuesday, so it's 3 o'clock by the time I'm done here. And we go leave it lay tomorrow. Try to let it get as dry as we can, and then we'll go through and bale it and wrap it. I mean, the goal is to really make it dry. I mean, the oats is already pretty well mature anyway. My logic on it is make it, feed it to the cows. They can use it for bedding. We can try dumping it in a bale feeder to see if there is any interest in them just eating it. Otherwise, we'll lay it out, throw it in for bedding. They can lay on it, nose through it, try to get some of the oats out of it, some of that alfalfa out of it. And the big benefit is we got our new seeding alfalfa established for the year. We don't do nearly as much as we used to. I mean, we're right at just over a quarter of the amount of acres we used to growing up. We used to put in about 40 acres of oats every year, partially for the grain, mostly it seemed for the straw, and obviously to keep rotating new alfalfa in every year. If you guys have been around long enough, I've said it multiple times that we had a lot more alfalfa growing up, milking cows than what we needed, because Grandpa was one of those individuals that everything had to be contoured and stripped out, like this front part of this farm is, as you can tell. All these strips, though, were doubled up. So this strip is actually twice as big as what it was when Grandpa was here, when we were milking cows. And that made for a lot of running around. So it didn't take very long to finish a strip up. Like, for what I've gotten done so far, this strip would have been done if this was just a singled out strip. And then you spend a lot more time chasing fields, chasing contours, opening up that many more fields and running over that much more crop. And myself, all of us, to be honest, everybody here, is we'd rather run bigger fields, bigger strips, mix out the contours all together and raise one crop across one field. Like you guys can see, the straight back is solid corn. It all boils down to efficiency. Some of our contours that we had growing up were pretty nasty. See, that used to be all stripped out too, and it was to prevent erosion. And I'm not joking. It's more efficient farming it like we are, and I can't tell that we have any more erosion issues, if any really, than what we did with the contours. The most erosion I've ever seen, that we had to deal with was actually back, and we had that couple year wet spell, was it 16 through 19, where we were getting 3 inches of rain every other day. And I don't care how you farm, you get that much rain so frequently and the ground is just that oversaturated, there's no amount of grass you can have, waterways you can put in, you're not going to prevent erosion. There's just no way around it. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad Grandpa didn't see that. Grandpa wasn't around for that, because he probably would have wanted to seed the whole works down to alfalfa. I kid you not. I mean, it wouldn't. He would have floated the idea. I'm sure he would have at least thought about it. But back to what I was saying about chasing strips. To make the contours work for how they were laid out, we have some strips that were pretty extreme, to where drive 100 feet, 90-degree corner. Drive 50 feet, 45-degree corner. So you weren't making a straight continuous pass. You were having to pick up, spin around, drop in again, and I don't know. It makes the farms look more picturesque, if that helps. I mean, it's prettier to look at. But at the same time, I'm the one that's running the planter here lately. And to be honest, how we've been planting, getting away from the contours, I think the farms look just as nice, if not nicer. I plant straight back and forth where it makes sense to. I plant with identical passes, identical curves. This is all using the Ag Leader RTK and the on-track system. And to be honest, I prefer it. The Agronomy Center prefers it. Spraying, harvesting, cultivating, it's a lot more enjoyable running down straight rows. And I mean, long, easy contours and curves don't bother me. But when you're having to white knuckle it all day, that actually wears you out faster, because you're constantly, much like cutting hay right now, you're constantly running the steering wheel, you're constantly making minor adjustments, and not just the simple adjustments to keep going down a straight path. You're compensating for zigzags. And everybody likes to joke about how there's more corn in a crooked row, but of those crooked rows, how many more of those plants are you running over and not being able to harvest or spray or collect because you're dealing with that? So I don't know. Dad and I went and checked a bunch of the crops last night. I want to go check the rest of them. I don't know if I'll get to it tonight, but the crops look really, really, really nice. And I know there's people with water issues, you know, the lack of it. but we are in the category of adequate subsoil moisture or adequate soil moisture with just enough rain being forecasted that it's not running off and you're getting it to soak into the soil much better. You don't have to dig down very much, and there's moisture there. So as far as thinking we're in a 2012 drought kind of situation, no. I try to stay off ag talk anymore. Ag talk is nothing but, well, it seems like at times a bunch of 3-year-olds arguing to each other about who's right, who's wrong, and who's righter than the other person. Everyone's trying to run down the crops across the country and say that the crops aren't there and everything, but we're gonna go through. It's seasonal. You get the seasonal market moves, and we're down what, 40-some cents in corn today. I didn't even bother looking at soybeans. And one thing I do want to say too, this stuff planted in soybean stubble, you get the nitrogen credits from planting into soybeans stubble. So these oats, they're about twice as heavy as the 5 acres of my seeding that I had planted on corn. The stuff was corn for the last probably 5 years, and it did its job. It got the alfalfa, the grass coming in, and that's really all I was looking for. I mean, it sounds kind of backwards to say this, but normally when you're making hay and you're cutting, you're hoping for a lot of tonnage. Myself, just because I'm not sure which way this is going to go, if we're going to have some material that the cows are at least going to get some kind of use out of, or if we're dealing with a potential situation of we're just dumping it out, letting the cows sleep on it, then we'll be hauling it right back out for manure and fertilizer. So really kind of hoping we don't get, 100, 150 bales, which we won't when it's only 15 acres. I do have, 4 acres from a local that he asked me if I would make it for him. But same situation, I'm still banking on it's less than 100 acres. Not 100 acres, 100 bales. And we'll see how this all works out. Ideally, it's either we're making this with the 569 for sure. The reason I say that is because it feeds in so much better than the 566. So what I'm leaning on right now is Dad's going to be here. The stuff is going to be dry, so it's not like we have to wrap it the same day we make it. I mean, I'm not sure when they're calling for rain on Friday, and luckily for all of the stuff we're making, this stuff is right close to where we're going to wrap it anyway, so I don't think it'll take very long to accomplish that. But I'm leaning on putting the rake on the 4640, baling with the 82 and the 7600, running both balers, and just knocking it out. If that isn't the option, then the other route is we put the rake on the 7600 and trying to multitask here, sorry. Put the rhino rake in the 7600 and we'll bale with the 82. Which the 82, if we're only doing, it's less than 20 acres total. It won't be that big of a deal. It's not like we're doing waterways. That is the goal here. I really didn't come down here to do all the waterways you guys can see in the background. I'm down here pretty much solely to take out the new seeding, get this stuff cut and made and forgotten about. And then after this weekend, they're not calling for any rain for a few days, or a better part of next week. So then I'll come down and do a lot of that tedious cutting, waterways, pasture, the stuff that it seems like you're wasting a whole lot of time and a whole day doing. But when it comes right down to it, I mean 30, 40 bales of waterway hay, the cows will eat it just as good as that freshly made alfalfa. I mean, our beef cows, they're not picky. They're not. As a matter of fact, it seems like our beef cows, they never stop eating no matter what we put in front of them. So the goal is not to put out a bunch of junk. And typically, if we do have some lower quality stuff, we do try to put out a multiple choice options of some good hay and some not so great hay, so they're not trying to eat just a bunch of crud. So the plan is this stuff will be wrapped. I don't want to make any of that grass because the grass doesn't need to be wrapped, in my own opinion. Not having to pay to wrap it or anything, you know, that wrap does cost money. Because we do have a bunch of empty shed space up here that we always put our hay in, and I would like to try to get that waterway pasture grass and everything cut, lay it out flat, get it dried down and get dry hay made, and then we can just throw that inside. So we'll see how that works. And then you're gonna probably see a slug of hay handling videos because second cut alfalfa is ready to go. So all of my dad's and brother's stuff that we made 4 weeks ago, this week, or is it next week, is 4 weeks. It's just starting to bloom, which it's for beef cows. We don't need the not quite mature, high quality alfalfa. For the beef cows, honestly, a few blooms and flowers really don't bother me. Then we're going to go through, get all that made, and then once all that stuff's made, it'll probably be time to spin through and make the valley again, and then wash, rinse, repeat. Go through, service all the equipment, spray my fertilizer, spray my foliars again. I've been pretty well convinced into treat the grass like a hay crop, like any other crop, and it's been paying, so it's worth it. The stuff that's still sitting outside, believe it or not, I'm hoping to have that moved here within a week. That stuff still is as green and awesome looking on the inside as it was since I made it. It's a little bleached out on the outside, but the heavy net wrap, wrapping over 4 wraps on it with this rain we've been getting, it's shedding it right out. So seems like I'm always learning, which I've been told over the years that if you're not learning something new at least every day, or at least a couple times a week, then it's time to move on to something different. Farming is constantly changing, and believe it or not, our operation is probably the best it's ever been. Getting things figured out, and we came a long way from Grandpa. I mean, people think I'm down talking dairying and everything, and to be honest, I am. The reason I down talk dairying, I had a person ask me, he was upset because the dairying got us to where we are, or to where we were. They did to a certain degree, but then it comes to a point where the dairying is actually holding you back. And we did have our fair share of years where we were milking cows, when if we could have switched to beef and crops like we are doing, Grandpa could have seen these more prosperous times. But it's being stuck in your ways is the same as being stuck in the mud and refusing to to adapt, to learn, to do something different, and even doing the grass hay like I am. I tried it a little bit a few years back, didn't like it, and had the opportunity to try it again, and went at it much differently than I did before, and I'm getting things figured out. The row crops, better machinery returns better returns. Absolutely. To be honest with you, I think we're all looking forward to it. Is tearing across the field with that 9770. Our next issue is going to be keeping the grain from it. We've been running the Underfirth demo grain carts for the last 3 or 4 years, and people are asking, I've been asked, what are you going to do this year? I'm going to do what we've always done. I'm going to do it a little differently, but it's going to be running the red cart and green cart, because we have the semi now, so it's not like we have a hired trucker sitting there cussing us out, wondering what's taking us so long. Brian getting that semi was a huge improvement on our daily grind, I guess, or yearly grind, doing harvest. But that's probably going to be one of the next things I look into, is a bigger grain cart. The plan is to put the 7600 on the green one at 500 bushel and park it wherever our loading area is, and I'm going to use that as a mini mother bin. For those of you that watch any of those Australian channels, which I've actually been tuning into a couple of them here lately, they're kind of interesting, just seeing farming in a different part of the world. But they have what they call mother bins, where they basically just park these huge grain wagons, and then they actually tender to those, and then that way when the truck shows up, the truck just loads and goes. Well, that's what I'm going to do with that green cart, because the auger on it has to be bolted up to work properly. So I don't want to run across the field with that on the 76, but I will fill it and park it. So my intentions are to put that red cart on the 4640 like we've done the last couple of years, and we'll run the cart on the 46, the red cart on the 46, the green cart on the 76, and we'll just have Ryan in the truck, Dad or I in the combine, and then just running the 46 and that red cart back and forth, because that'll hold 600 plus bushels. The green cart will hold 500, and then the combine is over 400 bushels. But the plan is to not run the combine back to the semi. I mean, all you're doing is creating compaction and wearing out the combine. In some of the fields we got, driving the combine clear back to where we're loading the truck won't work. I mean, it would, but it won't. As in, I definitely wouldn't want to drive clear back to where, well, it won't work, because with the 30-foot head on them, the corn and bean heads are both 30 feet. The driveways themselves won't let us drive back out to where the truck is parked. Not everywhere, anyway. The way the crops look, I'm looking forward to this year. Yeah, weather, it's a yearly struggle avoiding bad weather, but our crops yielded very well last year, even with the wind damage. My wind damaged fields, I had 2 of them. They averaged 240 between the 2 of them, and the crops this year actually look better than last year. We're sitting better than last year, so I'm looking forward to harvest, but I don't want to wish my summer away either. I'm actually really enjoying being able to look out across nice green, even across the whole works cornfield. Now we do have some trouble areas with our beans. I can't even say that because it's just one spot at the home farm, and even that doesn't look as bad as it did. But that field deer left there, I mean, that's actually one of our tougher fields, believe it or not, and it looks beautiful. Even the oats, not gonna lie, we had a bad storm come through. If you guys are on my Instagram, the rest of the story, Travis, I believe, I posted those pictures that storm came through the other night. That had some wicked potential, and I guess a lot of it went north of us. But even so, we had about 20 minutes where I couldn't hardly see out my living room window. And believe it or not, these oats are still standing. That's a running joke we have when it comes to oats. Well, it's not a funny joke, but oats, growing up, they would always stand and look beautiful until less than a week. Not even a week, but less than a week. We're talking days before you're going to harvest them. Then you get a wind that'll roll through and it'll roll them right out. So as opposed to being able to drive through with the head up off the ground like they are right now and basically just burn right through them, then you're running the head down in the dirt, picking up rocks, I mean, tearing up your machine, trying to harvest oats. So no, would we ever go back to harvesting, combining oats? Absolutely not. There's no desire there. I'll buy a couple hundred bushels of oats if I feel like we need it. Oats is good feed. I agree. Oats is good feed. You feed oats to cattle for a while and it shines their coats right up. And not saying that I don't like having the cattle, but if I can't raise them on hay, alfalfa, a little bit of grain, I myself, I'm in a category of put as little inputs into the cattle as possible. It's the only way to make any money on them. Myself, I'm having issues with my cows getting bred back. And if I could do it the way I want to do it, I would be calving March, April, keep the calves throughout the summer, leave them on mom, let them grow, and then I'd wean them off in about the 1st September. Wean them off, run them through the chute, grain them for 60 days, and then there's typically a fall beef cattle sale. I'd sell them in November, then boom, gone. And that's pretty much my goal. The equipment is gradually trickling in. We're being able to afford stuff. The row crops and the hay ground is doing well. I'm disappointed in my cow herd, and if I start attacking that in full force, what that would look like, probably not as dramatic as saying attack it in full force, but honestly, go buy a bunch of heifers, buy another bull, and start running 2 or 3 bulls with my cows and get up 25, 50 head of cows. I'm feeding them year round, but as of right now, that's not really hurting me with the feed that I'm feeding them. I got cheap feed, and then running multiple bulls, kind of having that redundancy where if somebody isn't able to perform, there's at least another bull or two that are at least be able to carry us through. Because this whole not being bred back in a timely manner or not being bred at all just isn't working. I'm pretty disappointed in that. And having majority of my herd is all red right now, and I already got another bull coming up for next year, so I will have at least 2 from the looks of it. And going forward from there, I should be sitting better. I mean, a lot of it is just going and buying about anywhere 5, 10 heifers, red heifers, and ideally that's what I want my cow herd to look like, is selling 25, 30 head of feeders every year, or 20 to 25 head of feeders every year, keep back 5 heifers for replacements, then call out, you know, 5 or so cows every year, to try to keep the overall age of my herd down. I can manage the cows better. I know I can. I've done it in the past. But getting the facility set up so I can do it, and bluntly, if you want my honest answer, is actually being willing to throw more money at them to get them started properly is what I would need. So I'm at basically another headland here. I'm going to end this. Sorry for everybody having to watch a 30-minute long video. I hope you heard it. It's entirely on my cell phone, but the cell phone's more reliable. So I thank everybody for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. It does mean an awful lot. The channel's kind of sprung back to life here. I'm hoping it's not a temporary thing or anything like that. I'm going to start doing some more voiceovers. I'm going to try to get the GoPros out, which is what I was going to do today. I brought the camera, but I didn't bring the mount. And I'm going to try to do some more of that. I mean, if the views are there, the viewers are there, I'll put the time and energy back into the channel. Until next time, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you later.